Welcome back, 3-day weekend. We got Dwight back in the shop. It's making a noise. If you saw the timing chain video, you'll remember the oil pump chain was very, very loose. And I think that's the cause of a noise I have down here. Let's take a look. Let me see if you can hear this noise. It might be difficult to hear on the camera. We're right down it. You hear that high-pitched rattle. I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear it. And I swear it's coming from right there. We have two of these machines. Dwight and Floyd. Floyd does not make that rattle, but Dwight does. But even if that's not the cause of my noise, that chain is so sloppy. I'll show you here in a minute that it's got to go. So we're gonna get up on the lift and take a look. It's pretty much the same procedure as the timing chain. Last time I debated on taking this off or not, and I did, and then I said in the end you don't need to.
Oh, yuck.
But with the shifter linkage in there, it might be easier to just take that off. You might be able to take the shifter linkage and bend it. But I know this comes off pretty easy, so I'm just going to do it that way. Then we've got these 8mm bolts. And before you leave me all these hate comments down below, I'm doing it dirty because I don't have time to clean it today. But yes, you should definitely clean it. In the last video, you'll be happy to see that it was clean. But not today, we're doing it dirty today. I've disconnected our stator. Just unplug that. I've taken out the crankshaft position sensor. With that 8mm, I just put that back so I don't lose it. Take out the oil and dipstick. So I don't catch that on anything. And now we get to remove all the bolts holding the stator cover on. Those are 8mm again. Got all of our bolts out. Now we pull this cover out. Remember, it's magnetic, so you're gonna fight me. Try to get a good grip. There we go. There we go. Chain we're looking for is right there, but we gotta get all of this nonsense off of there first, which requires, well, we gotta take the nut off, and then I have the special tool. What are we looking at? 27mm for this guy. There we go. Take off the nut and the washer, just like that. Got my tool. Feed that right on here. It's reverse thread, which is just weird. And this guy, which is also reverse thread. Still weird. What's that head look like? 21. 21. Kick it in reverse, and it should pop that right off like that. Piece of the cake. Slide this off. This one's going to want to come off at the same time. That exposes the chain we're after. It's a little loose.
You think a little?
A little bit. So I imagine that's got to be the noise that I'm hearing. Chattering back and forth. And that's an oil pump, so if this were to break or come off, that's game over for this engine. Not a good day. So let's get these. What do you think that is? That's a
Small.
small, yeah. Looks like a 10 mil or 8. Looks like an 8. It is 8 millimeter. 1/4 inch extension. We're gonna stick it in this hole right underneath the crankshaft. We're making sure the woodruff key is pointed down, but it's actually down and slightly forward. And we turn it, oh, there it goes, and it locks in position. So now the crank can't turn. We should be able to, oh, yep, loosen that one. And loosen this one. Now we can get these out of here. We have an alarm going off. I should probably go check into that. Oh, just working on taking out these bolts. Definitely don't want to drop anything down into the oil pan, because then I'll have some fishing to do. So there's a bolt and a washer on each one. Ah, man, I feel like I'm going to drop something. I got him.
With a black finger.
Yeah. You see they're labeled out, so we know what side is facing out. And that one's got a 98 and it's on top, and this one has a 99 and it's on the bottom. And I got people sending me messages. It's just a very distracting day. Good news, the garage is not on fire. It was just from revving an engine in here earlier. We got a little bit of carbon dioxide, but we'll be fine. Alright, let's go get those new parts. New parts. We got a 99. We got a 98 chain. And it says to replace the bolts every time. Let's go put them in. My helper's on break.
Yeah, definitely.
New one is in place. Checking the service manual. It says that you have to replace these bolts, but it didn't say anything about the washers. So I ran the existing washers. It's still loose, but not nearly as loose as it was. It's much, much tighter. I can't really move it up and down all that much, and I could before. Excuse me. So that should be good. Now we got to tighten that down to 9 foot-pounds. This one is driven by the gears inside. So I'm going to start with that one, get that torque down, and then do this one. Lining those up was pretty easy. Just kind of line one up, and I put a bolt in to hold it. Got this one lined up, tighten the bolt all the way snug so it couldn't move. Then loosen this, line that up, tighten it back down. Not too bad, really. Pretty easy job. And the oil is right up to the bottom here. So if you reach a little bit too low, you'll tip your finger right in there. We're all torqued down, 9 foot-pounds, 108 inch-pounds. So at this point, we can take out our block. Don't want to forget that that's in there. Now we're going to put our rotor back in. I've learned from last time, put it in with the one-way gear in there, and get this in all at the same time. It's a lot of fun. And you have to line up the woodruff key with the groove. So let me reposition because these are in the wrong hands. And we'll get lined up. Get the stator on there first. This in the groove. Them all back at the same time. Like that. That wasn't so bad. Washer. And Gotta look up torque specs on that. I don't remember offhand what our crank rotor side torque spec is. Might be on the screen. I'll take a look. Five-wheel retaining nut. We're going 133 foot-pounds, torque to specification, back off 180 degrees, and then re-torque to specification. All right. And what I found last time is that the motor wants to turn, so you have to hold the motor still, which I did by sticking a screwdriver in there, which probably frowned upon, but I don't have the special tool that Polaris wants you to have. And I couldn't find it online either, which is weird, so that's what we're going to have to do. We're torqued, but I noticed this. Ah, man, now I can't get it. That was out there. See, I can move the one way. I can only move it one way. I can move it because it's not seated in, so I'll turn that and lock those all into position. Now we're going to put the cover back on, and the worst part about the cover is this thing right here moves just a little bit, so I had to give her some love taps last time with the rubber mallet to get that to seat. We're ready. Let's do it. Now remember, this is a magnet in here, so watch your fingers. There we go. Turn your water pump till it lines up. And I think we got her. We're going around with those 8mm, and they all get 108 inch-pounds, or 9 foot-pounds, all the way around. I was able to get all these in, tighten down, but I was just thinking before I did that, I should have put the dipstick back in.
Dipstick?
So that no garbage falls down in there. I'm also curious on the level. This thing's burning oil. I don't know if I got a bad oil ring or what. Oh, she's dry. Dry. Man. So if your oil is properly filled when you take this cover off, it's probably going to run all over the place. So be ready for that. This one's low and it drizzled down just a little bit. Alright, that's plugged in. Before I forget, we're going to get this guy plugged in. Otherwise, you'll have a dead battery. And we'll throw the crankshaft position sensor in. We tighten that down to the same torque as pretty much everything else. And then the only thing left is the cover for the water pump housing. I got those all torqued down. I don't think I mentioned, but when you're torquing all that down, make sure you go out in a pattern, you know, I did every other 3, and that kind of works out in the end. This is it for mechanical stuff. We'll have to add some coolant to it again. We're always adding coolant to this thing because I'm always taking it apart. And we are good. Alright. But before I do anything else, I'm going to pull that spark plug out. I want to send a borescope down into the cylinder and see if I can see any damaged scrapes or something. I think we've got a broken oil ring, or I'd say piston ring, but it feels like it's got good power and compression. So I think we got a broken oil ring. Just burning a little bit of oil. And we've done the valve stem seals, we've done everything else. So I'm right back down to that. So whoever rebuilt this engine last may have broken an oil ring.
I wonder who that could be.
When he was putting it together. We're not going to name any names here.
Okay.
But it was me. It was me. It's possible. I didn't have an excuse this time. I didn't have the compression, a ring compressor like I do now over there, so we just kind of did it with screwdrivers and working the way around. Yeah. I put put it back together. I grabbed the boroscope, but believe it or not, even though it's that tiny, it's still too big to stick it down through the spark plug hole. It fit, but it was the size of the hole, and I felt like if I shoved it any harder down in there, I wasn't gonna be able to get it back out, and it runs the way it sits, so I decided to leave it. We topped off the coolant. Maybe I should top off the oil. Stand by. Got the oil topped off now, and it sounds much healthier. Compare the sounds, maybe? It sounds healthy now, but it's burning oil. There's no way around it. I'm gonna have to tear that thing apart. I can smell it. I'm very displeased with this thing burning oil. It's gotta be in the rings. Well, hopefully this thing can hold itself together until I decide to do the engine rebuild, do the rings and whatnot. That'll be this winter. It's mid-November now. So I don't know, that's like a December, January project. Maybe into February. We don't ride as much in the winter. I don't know. Next time it's done. It'll be a good winter project. So we'll get that done. That'll be the next thing, hopefully the next thing that breaks on this machine. I have to work on it. But we'll see. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every viewer and every subscriber. I've made playlists with every machine on there. If you haven't checked those out, you can see everything I've done with the Aces or the Pro, you name it. It's all on there. And if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. Love to have you. But thanks again for watching. I hope to see you here for another video on 3-Day Weekend.